Hi, I'm Lilia. It's 6 a.m. I've been awake since 5 a.m. I can't sleep because I keep thinking about, talking. I keep having this, conversation in my head with my family about this topic, okay? Because on Sunday, for, any event, like our birthday or obviously, Thanksgiving or something, usually for birthdays, we have this big round table. We'll all sit around it, have dinner together, whatever, we talk and everything. Um, I remember one time, a long time ago, like a couple years ago maybe, abortion got brought up. And that was it kind of just derailed. My family tends not to get political and whatever, but I don't think this should be a political topic. I think this should be something that's more talked about as something that's not political because all the time, I'm a shut in. I barely leave the house. I have two friends, I have a boyfriend, and my family. Those are all the people I talk to. But on Instagram, all the time, still, I see the same argument over and over of, pro-life or pro-choice. It's always these two, and they're always fighting. They have yet to come to an agreement somehow, which is the point of arguing. The point of arguing is to come to an agreement. It's not to argue your point actually. It's to be able to get your point across while absorbing what the other side is saying. Okay, that's the point of an argument. That's why arguments are healthy in healthy relationships, because you're supposed to be working towards an agreement. You're supposed to, the point of an argument is to, come to an agreement. It's to find common ground, is to see eye to eye. And that's supposed to be the point of political parties, is two different perspectives that you're supposed to come together and make the right choice. Because having both perspectives, having both, walks of life or whatever, for whatever reason you associate with that political party, okay, you bring something different to the table, something that the other political party doesn't have. But instead of appreciating that, we just hate on each other for it. I'm not included in that we. I hate this. I don't see the point. So, here's the conversation I keep imagining, and I'm just going to go for it. So, at the table, we all basically sit in the same spots, but it's my sister, her boyfriend, so my older sister, her boyfriend, my little sister, my oldest sister, and her boyfriend, me, my boyfriend, my mom, my dad. Okay, I don't even remember who I listed, but that's how they sit. And so, what I'm imagining, that's the scene. Big round table, big living room, nice suburban white house, white neighborhood. Everything's normal. I grew up in Idaho. I've seen a black person 4 times in my life. I have a very closed walk of life. It's different. I've seen farmland. I've seen everything around here. I've seen 4-way stops turned into traffic lights. I've seen roads go from 2 lanes to 5 lanes. I've seen all the fields around here turned into apartments, neighborhoods. I've seen that much, but I don't have a whole lot of other perspectives. And so that's where, even in my own family, I can get a couple other perspectives. So what I'm imagining is that topic comes up again, abortion. And, it's not really so taboo. It's I don't know, not a great thing to talk about at a family meal, alright? But I think it is. Okay, and so what I'm imagining is I'm very quiet in my family, but I'm starting to become a little more outspoken. I'm trying to connect with them more. And I don't know, but what I was imagining was the topic comes up and I just want to steal the floor because I have so much to say about this. So I tell them all to shut up and just continue eating their dinner because I'm not that hungry, and I always finish my food last, but I've been going through a lot of health issues and so I don't really have an appetite at all. So I just have to force myself to eat, but whatever. It sucks, but anyway, so I just imagined, hey, you guys shut up. I have a big speech to give on this, alright? And I think they would actually be interested in what I have to say because I never talk. I don't talk a whole lot. I'm just the quiet kid, alright? So I just imagined, hey, I got this big speech to give, alright? Let me give it. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Because it's my imagination and I can imagine them being like, yeah, okay, give it. So I stand up and I'm like, okay, the topic is abortion, alright? And all the time we have political sides, one of them being pro-life, the other being pro-choice. These are the two big sides, all right? Two big arguments is for these. Now, if you guys know what these political parties stands for, good, because I'm not going to explain it. I feel like most people know this. And if you're watching this video, you do know what's going on because you saw the title of the video, so you know where this is going. But there's two political sides revolving around abortion, that topic. And I know my mom is pro-life, and I know my little sister is pro-choice. Yet we still sit at the same dinner table, alright? Because we are civilized. And so, I really want to ask everyone what their stance is, pro-life or pro-choice. Just quick answer, go around, answer. I can kind of imagine what some of them have to say, but my older sisters are 29 and 31, and me and my little sister, I'm 22 and she is 19. So we're kind of like two pairs separated, and, I don't know, almost like two different generations, even though we're all Gen Z, I think. My oldest sister might be a millennial, but I don't know. Like, different generations, alright? And then my parents are boomers, they're super old. I think my mom might be Gen X, but my dad's a boomer. They're old, alright? But they're very open-minded. I love my parents for that, is they're very, willing to listen and get new perspectives, stuff like that. But they tend to be more right-leaning in some ways. I think they're middle ground for what I know. But anyway, it'd be nice to know what everyone stands for, so I want to ask them. And if their opinions differ, I don't want them, side-eyeing everyone next to them. I just want to go around quickly. Alright, just quickly. Pro-life, pro-choice. Alright, choose one. I am pro-life. That's my stance. And so because that's my stance, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about why I believe in pro-life. And of course, everyone who's pro-choice is going to get mad. But only inside, because I'm not going to give them time. I'm going to say, but what follows after why I give the reason why I'm pro-life is why I will never support the pro-life political movement. Why I will never align with it. Why I won't have anything to do with it, because I think it's stupid. But I'll go into that later. For now, why I'm pro-life, because when you're pregnant with a fetus. The fetus is human. It's still human. The species is still human. It's still human. So you kill it, you're killing a human, that's murder. Alright? It's as simple as that for me. I think that's a simple enough reason to be pro-life. I think that's fine. Now we go into the complicated things, like why people are getting abortions. Alright? There's the why. And you break down the reasons. I have this lovely infographic, which I don't know, I found pretty easily. It's just on Google, so fact check me, whatever. I think they're both, everything I saw online, because I did look at other websites and everything, it did list just things similar to this, so this is ballpark. Don't take the percentages, don't quote them, be 100, but I think this is a fine infographic source to use. So most of what pro-choice argues, just kidding, it's not most. I don't actually know what they argue because I don't really pay attention to political stuff a whole lot. But, this is there's a valid reason for abortion, alright? It's for the quality of life of them. You're choosing yourself over a fetus, which they see as, not lived yet. I mean, you can always make another. And I get that, whatever. But you're still killing it. You're still killing it. And the reason you're killing it, alright, not you specifically, unless you've had an abortion, which is, that sucks for you, I'm sorry. That's really traumatic, regardless of the reason. But the reason, alright, how many women get abortions because they were raped? Or because it was incestual? Less than 1%, alright? Less than 1%. A very small percent, alright? People who had an abortion because of health issues, small percent. Very small percent. So the other reasons? I don't know, just cause it was inconvenient. When you Google it, it gives you a lot of, bigger reasons and numbers, but they're very it's the AI overview, so it's whatever, but it's these don't add up to 100% because some women give multiple reasons, and yeah, you will have more than one reason oftentimes, unless it was clear cut, I was raped, or I had sex with my cousin and I didn't know he was my cousin. That's insane, but it happens, and we gotta be able to accommodate for that, which is gonna lead into the next point. But in any case, most of women who have abortions just have them just because they don't want the responsibility of a kid. And yeah, I wouldn't either, but then I'm gonna have sex, I'm not gonna get an abortion. But, so that's the reason, is it's not for rape, it's not for health reasons most of the time. It does happen, it does happen. There's women who need it for those reasons, and that's very sad. That breaks my heart to think about. But most of the time, it isn't for those reasons. It's just because they just don't want the responsibility of a kid. And I get that that's inconvenient, but what really like hurt and radicalized me per se, because I was already kind of pro-life. But what really like got me I identify as pro-life, even though I don't support the movement, is a third of Gen Z is dead. Already dead. A third of my generation is gone. More like never had a chance to live. A third, a whole third of all of us are dead already. Because a third of estimated, okay, I'll find the source, whatever. But women who would have had Gen Z kids, the third of those were aborted. They could have been my friends. I have 2 friends. Some of those kids could have been my friends. Maybe I would have actually liked them. Maybe I would have got along with them. But so that's just kind of really scary to think about. Like, that's a lot. That's a third of our entire generation. That's a big deal. And so it's getting to that point where it's actually, like, making a difference in numbers. And, like, it's just crazy to think about. A whole third of my generation is dead already. Dead already. Like, I was already hopeless and felt like we have no chance. Or a third of us was never given a chance. And I don't know, that's just crazy. Oh, and, portion of abortion were for birth defects. Pretty cool. Although, fun fact, the reason why my mom stands pro-life is because my little sister was supposed to die. She was supposed to be stillborn, and my mom refused to abort her. My mom refused. And she's just fine. My little sister, I love my little sister. And I think I'd be really lost without her because my 2 oldest sisters are like a pair. Me and her are like a pair. I would have lost her. And so, of course, there's birth defects that are detrimental, and it sucks to live with, and, you wouldn't want them to suffer. You wouldn't want them to be born into suffering. I don't want that for anyone. I don't want to force anyone to be handicapped in a world like this. It's not cool, it's not fair. So I get it. I get the reason why, but moving on, why I will never support the pro-life movement, okay? Even though I am pro-life. I will never support it because I don't think abortion is the problem. This is where abortion should not be a political argument. It shouldn't have anything to do with politics. This is the morals of humans, alright? This is where moral influence come in, and I don't think the government is fit to teach us morals, alright? This is where parents need to kick in. And I don't know, just even people. I don't know, just people. Because it's kind of crazy that people just, I don't know, they just have sex, and then when the baby making action makes a baby, they're like, oh shit. Like, I don't know what you expect. The reason there's so many abortions that aren't for medical reasons or rape or anything like that, it's because it's just inconvenient. But you brought that on yourself. It's like dealing with your consequences. Don't have unsafe sex if you're not going to care for the child, alright? It's that simple. I mean, abortion shouldn't be the discussion. It should be what's causing that. We're putting a band-aid on the problem because the real problem is why are we getting abortions? And not these reasons why, but why? Alright, why? And of course you can think about, like, why don't women want to have kids, alright? Because, 1, the economy sucks, alright? People suck. Like, the world sucks, alright? Everything's going downhill. There's wars and everything. Everything sucks, alright? There's a lot of good reasons not to have a kid now. But if you're going to get pregnant, if you're gonna do the things to get pregnant, knowing that they lead to pregnancy, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's your consequence to live with, alright? But then there's the argument that those people shouldn't be parents because they didn't even want the kid. I know people who have grown up with knowing their parents didn't want them, knowing they were an accident, and it made them feel worse, alright? And some people, they're the happiest accidents of their parents' lives, and that's beautiful. It happens, alright? It happens. Every now and then I forget a day of my birth control. I just make sure that I'm safe other ways, alright? It happens, okay? But you gotta take responsibility. Either I'm going to take responsibility and have whatever kid that I get stuck with because I forgot to take a day of birth control, or I tell my boyfriend, hey, I forgot a day. We either, need to be safe in other ways, or just not have sex, okay? And, that's how it's supposed to go. You take responsibility for your actions, and a lot of women don't. And I think that's a moral issue. That's not a legality issue. That's not a political issue. No laws should be made around saying, take responsibility for your actions, because what the government doesn't. The government isn't setting a good example for us. I mean, come on. You think about all the stuff they did, and I don't want to get into it, but that's a whole other conversation. But the government shouldn't be teaching us. The government shouldn't be shaping our lives like this, okay? Abortion shouldn't have laws around it, because there are women who do need it. There are the small percentage of women who were raped, who did have incestual baby, okay, who made a child, what would be a child, okay, or it has massive birth defects. Those are reasons I do support abortion. Alright, I know there are people who live great lives, handicapped, and I'm not, invalidating that or whatever, but I also wouldn't curse that upon someone, knowing if I knew for sure that I had a child that was going to be born deaf and blind, that fucking sucks. I mean, that sucks. You miss out on most of the world. I mean, that's 2/5 of your entire senses that are gone. You're experiencing less, guaranteed. And if it was early enough on, I would go for abortion, alright? Because it's not fair to the child. And if it's late, if it's this is where it gets hard. This is where abortion is a hard topic. And this is when it should be a hard topic, because it's for serious reasons. It's for real reasons, not the economy sucks, I'm not having a kid. Yeah, just don't have a kid, but don't make a kid in the process of not having a kid. What are you doing? I don't know, if you hate the world that much, why are you having sex unsafely? Birth control's free with my Medicaid. Even so, it's really not that expensive. But, so those are free ones. Condoms, pretty easy to get. It's not that hard. It's also not that hard just to, give your boyfriend head instead of having sex. If you can't be safe, come on. I don't know. And this is when you think of morals, old standard morals like waiting till marriage. I don't believe in waiting till marriage because I think you should know about that person, but there was a time when waiting till marriage was more important because birth control wasn't more common, and now that it's more common, it's okay, we have no reason not to have sex as long as we're being safe. But I think so many people forgot about that. So many people disregard sex before marriage, but they forget to be safe about it. And that was kind of the whole underlying message was you can have kids when you're married because then you're serious, you love each other, you're gonna raise that kid, alright? That's what sex meant back then, because it was a baby-making activity. It was less just for fun, even though of course it is fun. There's people who historically have always enjoyed sex, alright? It's an enjoyable thing, that's how we populate the species, it's supposed to be enjoyable. But be safe if you're not committed to your partner. I mean, I don't get it. It's just that simple. And so that's why it shouldn't be a political topic. Abortion isn't the problem. It's the reason that we're having unsafe sex. It's the reason that it's so normalized, that, and then also the reason why abortion, why we can't raise kids in this world. I mean, we created a world that it's horrible to live in. I hate being alive every day. Every day. It's hard. And I live for my family. I live for my boyfriend. I live for my cats. I do for them. But I hate waking up. And, it would be easier if I weren't born. It would, because I wouldn't have to deal with this. More of my life sucks than it's been happy. I'm a sad person with happy times. And that sucks. but I still have happy times, and I do appreciate that. And while there was a time I wish I wasn't born, I am grateful to be alive. And it's, even though it's hard, but I wouldn't want to bring a kid into this world. I wouldn't want to do it, which is why I have safe sex, which is why I do everything to prevent it. And the problem is I want kids. I do. I want to be a mom. I want to be the best mom I can be, and I want to do my best, and I think I could really do good for a kid, but I know this world can't do good. It can't do good for a kid. And so we're creating a world that's not fit for kids. It's not right to raise a kid in this world. And that's why abortion is a big deal, because it's preventing people from having to live in a world that sucks. But the problem isn't then abortion, the problem is the world sucking. And why does it suck? It feels so out of our control. It does. It really does. See, this is why I needed to talk about it instead of just laying in bed for an hour mulling over it, because I never would have gotten to this point in my head in a conversation with my family. Because now I'm just really thinking. I know that abortion's like a necessary evil. It sucks. Women who are raped, they need an abortion. I would not want to have a kid that's half my rapist. You don't want that. But then the problem isn't the abortion. The problem is the rape. The problem's the rapist. The problem is getting raped. I mean, and not to say it's only happening to women. There are women who do rape men. I acknowledge that. There are women who do rape men, which most people don't believe. I don't know how you could believe that's impossible, but my friend's dad was, or my old friend, we're not friends anymore, but my friend's dad was drugged and raped and is forced to pay child support for the rest of his life. That sucks. That fucking sucks. He was forced to have a kid he doesn't want, now he has to pay for it. That sucks. Okay. And he has no say in that. He wouldn't be able to say, I don't want a kid with this lady, abort it. I don't want anything to do with this, leave me out of it. Still stuck paying child support. This is where the government butts in again. Okay, it's not fair to this guy. Okay, just like it's not fair to women to get raped, alright? Rape is bad all around. It's detrimental to society, alright? And people still rape other people. It's awful. That's terrible. And then, that can be helped. Of course, there's things that can't be helped, like, the birth defects, alright? But, I don't know. Because even then, it's only if you know for sure, and so many of these are guesses, it was only a guess that my little sister was going to be deformed and stillborn. It was only a guess. And they were wrong. She's beautiful. And she's my little sister. And so that's, we don't know, we don't have the technology to know for sure yet. And that's when it gets really hard. That's when it just, I don't know. Because if I had a kid I knew for sure would be disabled, I wouldn't wish that upon them. I wouldn't wish them to have to live in a world and have to deal with that, because it just sucks. It just sucks. If you ask someone in a wheelchair, someone who's blind, if they could be born perfect, if they could be born perfect, with every well functioning in their body, everything works right, they would want that. I have a really weak immune system. I get sick all the time. And, cancer runs in my family, all that genetic stuff. It sucks. But I'm glad I was born. There's some people who aren't. And I don't know. That's when it just sucks. I don't know. That's when I guess, you live, and if you decide you hate it, you kill yourself. Which is so normalized now in Canada with the MAID program, Life sucks, just kill yourself. No, I don't know. The world should be better. The world should be more wheelchair accessible, because while it's a small percentage of people who are actually in wheelchairs, it sucks for them. That's something they can't help. And I don't know, I think more funds should go to that than it should to, I don't know, anything else. Some things we just waste so much money on, and it's just not right. I mean, taxpayer money covers food stamps, which can buy soda. I'm paying for people to get diabetes and obese. It's wrong. I mean, we shouldn't contribute to that. I mean, companies shouldn't make that, but they shouldn't make soda knowing it's doing nothing good for you. It tastes good for... I don't like soda. I hate carbonation, but it tastes good for a couple minutes, and then you're fat and spike your blood sugar and brain fog and all that things that comes with high blood sugar and all that. It sucks. I don't know, it sucks that no one seems to care about the world. They're so focused. I mean, this is why we have these big political issues of abortion, you know? That's why we have pro-life and pro-choice. To fight. Just to argue. They're pitting us against each other. And, you know, while, I don't know, these billionaires sit back and watch us like we're a show. I don't know. This isn't a political issue. Abortion's not a political issue. It's a moral issue. Why are we doing this to our world? Why do people do this to each other? Why do people treat each other this way? And I don't know. I think so many people focus on Band-Aid on the bullet wound. There's a real issue going on, just like, I don't know, just like the other argument of banning guns. I don't know, banning guns. I don't know. School shootings don't happen because of the gun. Home defense shootings don't happen because of the gun. It happens because someone was mentally ill and shot up a school. Someone was mentally ill and broke into my house. Someone was desperate enough to try and steal from me. Alright? To steal from someone else. To steal from someone who was armed. And they you shoot and kill them because they were trying to steal your stuff. The gun's not the problem. The gun didn't cause that. I mean, you broke into someone's house. That's the problem. The problem is, I don't know, quality of life. There's billionaires while we're fighting each other. I mean, that's awful. The people who steal from people who have barely anything. We're not Robin Hoods anymore. We're just fighting against each other. It's awful. It's awful to see how people don't support and help each other. How people are apathetic now. They don't care. Who cares about the woman who was raped? Everyone. Everyone knows it's a bad thing. But do they care enough to stop it from happening? Do they care enough to prevent it? To, I don't know, raise better men? To put the rapist in jail for longer than a couple years? And even, I don't know, jail's not that great either. There's a lot of flaws with the world, and we choose to focus on abortion. We choose to fight about it. That's not what we should be looking at. That's why I don't like politics. I'm not gonna push for pro-life, because why? It's just fighting. It's just more. It's just adding to the argument between the two sides when we all just need to sit at the dinner table together, like my family. We all have different views, but we sit together. And the reason I wanted to give that speech was because I wanted everyone on the same side, okay? I want everyone to understand each other, because that's the point of an argument. I want my whole family. I want my mom to see why my little sister is pro-choice. I want her to see how impossible it would be to raise a kid in this world today. I want my little sister to see how she's the miracle my mom fights for when she's pro-life. And I just want them to see each other as people. And I want them to understand each other. I want political debates to go back to not just arguing, not just trying to get your point across, not just listening to the other person to reply to them, to shoot them down, trying to find flaws in their argument. I want people to listen to understand. People to listen to understand each other. I want people to actually debate, like have a conversation. Everyone who's pro-life, I want them, in an ideal world, to sit down with everyone who's pro-choice and talk. Like, hey, what about the women who were raped? Yeah, I don't think they should have to have that kid. This is when we should not make abortion illegal, but what about the women who, you get abortions for no good reason. I still think that's murder. Yeah, I guess I can see how you would think that, and because you think it's murder, I know why you think it's bad. Even if I don't believe it's murder, it's still, I get why you would see it that way, and I think that then instead we could make more programs getting birth control to women, or to educate about safe sex. I never really got sex ed as a kid. I 2 weeks ago I googled what a placenta was because I had no idea. I'm a woman. That's an organ that grows inside me during pregnancy. I had no idea. No clue. No clue. It's what the education system is like. This is what our government-funded education system is like. It's not really teaching you. It's not really, like, you're not really learning the real stuff. I mean, they're just setting you up to pick sides and argue, really, because they only introduce you into one aspect of a topic. I mean, even, like, I remember in history class, they brought up Christopher Columbus, and each of the class essentially split themselves in half on whether it's good to celebrate Columbus Day or it's bad to. And why is that an argument? Why are people now trying to say whether that was good or bad? We can say that the discovery was good while acknowledging that there were a lot of bad things that happened because of it. And so further, when we go on to make more discoveries, we can learn from the past and not do those bad things. Alright? It shouldn't be an argument. It shouldn't be an argument whether it was good or bad. It should be how we're going to learn from it. I hate that. Why in history class are they pitting kids against each other? They don't have frontal lobe enough to make a decision, to fight for themselves. They're just choosing a side and defending the side. We should be fighting for ourselves. We should be fighting for the better of the world, and that's too much for a kid to comprehend. That's too much. Our brains aren't fully developed till we're like 25, and I'm supposed to vote on, like, my president when I'm 18? That's insane. That's so much. I'm supposed to vote on laws when I'm a kid? I'm a teen. I'm 18. I mean, I didn't feel ready. I didn't vote. I haven't even registered to vote yet because I don't think I could make a proper decision for the country. And I don't know. I don't think I know enough to make a decision for the country, but we have people who act like they know enough. Adults or not, you know, whether some people fully developed and actually developed critical thinking skills, because that's something you have to grow too. That's something you have to learn to think critically. And I didn't learn that until recently, so now I'm back in college and I'm reading these textbooks and I'm thinking critically about them. I'm like, why are they choosing to just tell us this one aspect, you know? Why are they painting it in this light? And I'm able to better question these things and find out, like, oh yeah, they're doing this because of this. Is this really the best choice? That's what it should be for. It shouldn't be whether abortion is right or wrong, shouldn't be the argument. It should be, how can we make it to something that we all agree is right? How can we make it okay? How can we make life okay for us? How can we all come to an agreement? Because, you know, of course there's times when you agree to disagree, but that's on small issues. That's like whether my hair is blue or is it purple. Some people will say it's blue, some people will say it's purple, and that's when, you know, you agree to disagree, because it's not a big issue. It doesn't matter whether my hair is blue or purple in the long run, it's just how you see it, and if you see it differently, you agree to disagree. But on a big issue, it's your responsibility to change your opinions when you're wrong. Okay, don't double down. If you see, like, oh yeah, this is a good point why pro-lifers are right, okay, I do see that, you know, I'm killing a human. That should be murder, alright, I see that. And then, you know, they should look up pro-choice and be like, wow, like, you know, women are really, like, getting raped. They really, like, when it's medically necessary, it can't be illegal to get an abortion. It's medically necessary and it will save their life, alright? And, you know, those are both good points. And so, I don't know, what everyone needs to do is just see the sides and make a decision. Well, okay, if it's, this is a good point and this is a good point, how should we act going forward knowing those? And I don't know, we're passing laws and things that are very one-sided. They're very one perspective only. This is a very, I don't know, like, Republican point of view. This is like a democratic law, and you're splitting them so much, and it's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just, why would you do that? It's against everything that we're supposed to do. It's against everything we're taught. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem right. Why would you argue about these things that are really not important? And why would you argue about them in a way that gets you nowhere? Because I think people know they're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere by screaming at each other. And you're not getting anywhere by not acknowledging each other. Because both sides have good points and both sides have bad points. We're all sitting at the same dinner table. At the end of the day, we all live on this earth. We all live in this country. We live in this state. I share my city with everyone. I share this apartment complex with a lot of people. And at the end of the day, I want to get along. It shouldn't be a political discussion. I think people bring politics into too much. It's a human discussion. Abortion is a human issue that we need to work out. We need to eventually find answers to, and whether the answer revolves around abortion, it doesn't have to. Maybe there is a bigger issue, which is, the underlying reasons of why the economy sucks and why people don't want to have and raise kids, and why, I don't know, safe sex isn't advocated as much as it used to be, or, I don't know. It seems like we're being destroyed by big political figures. Like, they're pinning us against each other and watching us destroy ourselves. They're watching people, the working class, fight for nothing. But when we all could fight for better working conditions, we all could unite against something real and make a difference. But by arguing just about abortion, it's not making a difference. You're not making a difference by saying whether you're pro-life. I wouldn't if I just stood up at the dinner table and said I'm pro-life because abortion is murder. Even though that's true, it wouldn't get me anywhere. It wouldn't get my family anywhere. It wouldn't benefit anyone. That's not how you argue. I don't know. It just isn't right. You gotta, like, I pointed out how, those circumstances when the child is going to be born disabled. That's a real topic, and I'm acknowledging why pro-choice is like, yeah, you gotta, that's a big decision you have to make. You have to be able to choose. And there's a time when I think that choice is right for that person to make, because I couldn't dedicate myself to raising a child that is deaf and blind, knowing for sure. If it happens, it happens. This is a responsibility I took, and if my child was supposed to be healthy, and it was born, she or he was born deaf or blind, I have to live with that. That's the responsibility I committed to. That's the choice I made, was to have that kid. But the kid has to live with that. I have to live with the kid. I have to help them in the world long after they're 18. Because what deaf and blind kid is going to be ready for the world at 18 years old? You can't abandon that. That's a big responsibility for me if I were to have a kid like that. And for anyone. And if I knew that, I wouldn't want to force that on them. I wouldn't want to force that on myself. And to a degree, that is selfish. I admit. That is looking out for myself. That is wanting a normal kid. Of course. Everyone wants a normal kid because normal kids are healthy. They should be. That should be the peak of normal, is health. I want a healthy, happy kid. And knowing that they're not being born healthy, knowing that they are going to be born into suffering, I don't want that for them. I don't want to have to see that every day either. I mean, that's hard on me, too. Just as it's harder on them. Of course, it's harder on them. They have to live with it. But I have to see it firsthand. I have to see firsthand my kid being bullied. My kid struggling trying to read Braille. I mean, that's so hard. That's so hard. That's so hard on anyone. And that's a side I see of pro-choice. That's a side I acknowledge of them, even though I am pro-life. And, you know, that's when it becomes muddy. That's when it becomes gray. That's when it should be a choice that you have to make, because in the end, I will have to live with that. I will have to live with that. And I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could. To kill a child, even just because they were deaf and blind. Maybe even that's wrong. Maybe we should make a world better suited for them. But even so, a world better suited for them is still one that they lack to sense in two ways. They will never see the beauty of a rainbow after a big rain. You know, they will never hear the rain hitting the roof. That's one of my favorite sounds. When a big rainstorm comes, or on the third story, I can hear it hit the roof and I love it. They'll never get that. But they'll be able to touch the softness of a kitty. I love petting my cats and feeling their fur. They'll get that. They'll have that experience. Isn't that worth it? I think I just changed my mind. Because that would be worth it. I did see this video once on Instagram. It was a mom whose child was, or actually I don't know the context. I'm not sure. I think it was a mom, but the child in question, was like non-verbally autistic. Had big issues. I've never spoken a word to the mom, and the mom was, you know, talking to the kid, said good morning and everything. The kid said good morning back. That's a big step, and the mom cried immediately because that's the first word she'd ever heard from the kid. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. And you could have killed that kid. You could have aborted that kid. He could not be alive right now, and she never would have had the joy. She never would have had all the suffering that came with it, of course. And I think that's what people tend to focus on. That's what I was focusing on. You know, it's the suffering one would endure being deaf and blind. The suffering I would have to endure. But it's worth it. It would be worth it. And I think so many people fail to see that. So many people focus on the suffering because it does affect you now. But the memories would last forever. For her. To hear her son say. I mean, that would get me through years and years. Even if I never heard a word from him again, you know? As a mom, that's cool. Even if it's, you know, it could create false hope, whatever, bring more suffering in the long run. But that joy, I could see her feel in that moment, that emotional overflow of just joy. It was beautiful. It was a miracle. And I guess I think abortion prevents miracles. And, you know, it still sucks when there's cases of women being raped, because how could you look at, like, how could you do that? That's so hard. And so this is where it becomes tough, because if I was raped, I wouldn't want to kill the child, but I'd have to raise it, look at it, knowing it has the eyes of a rapist, the same nose, things like that, you know? You could see the features, the resemblance, and you'd have to live with that, and that sucks. But the child didn't do anything wrong. I don't know. The kid shouldn't be punished for having a father as a rapist. That's not fair. So this is why it shouldn't be political. It should be, this is why abortion isn't the problem. The problem is people being raped. The problem is instant gratification too. Not being able to endure suffering for a miracle, for joy. It's weird. It's weird now, and I guess I'm wrong for that. See, this is why I couldn't sleep for hours. This is why. Because I would keep going on like this, and I would never even reach this point. I would just keep replaying the dinner table scene in my head of walking around talking to my family. This is why I need to talk out loud, because then I get somewhere. If I keep it in my thoughts, I just get stuck, and I'm like, wait, like I want to rethink this through. But if I've said it, I've said it. It's out. It's permanent, you know? Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words linger, you know? I'm always gonna remember the time that I was called, like, I can't remember. In 8th grade, a girl I helped in science class, you know, we were nice to each other. I was nice to her, and, you know, I helped her with homework and stuff. Behind my back, she called me a ugly bitch with no sense of fashion. That stuck with me. I wasn't very inclined to help people, but I also never stopped helping people after that. I didn't help people as much, though. Words do hurt. And, you know, the problem is she felt the need to say that. You know, it's not an issue of bullying. It's an issue that she felt the need to say that. What was she really down on herself about? Does she feel ugly? Does she worry about her clothes? Because I don't. I pretty much wore this in 8th grade in high school. Sweatpants, sweatshirt, no beanie, so my hair looked even worse. I don't know. It's just comfy. This is what I wear. I don't really dress for school to be fashionable. I'm there to learn, and people thought I was ugly and had no sense of fashion because of it. But I don't know. I didn't care enough to put on nice clothes. The day before spring break, actually, I did wear, in high school, the day before spring break, I wore a dress with flowers on it to school, and dressed really nicely, and everyone looked me in the eyes that day. Everyone actually saw me and said I was pretty. I got compliments on my dress, because I dressed nice, and that felt good. But I don't know, why would you do the opposite? Why would you put someone down when they're not dressing nice? Why would you do that? I don't know, of course you should lift people up when they put a little extra effort into something, but I often just didn't have anything to give. I didn't want to be alive, but I still went to school, and I still got dressed, even if I just put on shitty clothes. I don't know, people condemn each other so often. It's weird. You get a debate about abortion, it's just people yelling. It's just people yelling, and at the end of the debate, what's the decision? What's the verdict? Who won? No one. There's never an answer. All of these things, you know, you really think about it, they're just pitting us against each other. No one wins. No one's winning. We're all fighting each other. No one's winning. We're not getting anywhere. And so it's up to you. It's up to you whether you want to go. If you want to keep sticking to your sides, if you want to be pro-life or pro-choice, I don't know, there's so many more topics like that, just like the gun example I gave, you know, pro-guns. If you want to be Molanabe, come and take. All that pro-gun stuff, you know. Guns do kill people. We shouldn't need guns in a peaceful society, but we don't live in a peaceful society, so we do need guns. We need self-defense. If someone breaks in, I want to defend myself, even if it means shooting and killing them. If I think my life is in danger. If they are... I'm a small woman, so if they're a man, automatically they got that overpowerment on me physically. But if they're, I'm not gonna shoot them if they're unarmed. If they're armed, though, But then you think if there were no guns in that scenario, I don't know, because then there's knives. There's still weapons. You see in England where guns are banned, okay, we see the result of that, and it's acid attacks. I'd rather have a bullet wound than permanent facial deformities because someone threw acid on me and feeling that eat through my skin. That's horrible. Guns aren't the problem. It's people using guns against each other. It's whoever breaks into my house. Why are you breaking into my house? Like, come on, that's not cool. I don't know. Why are you shooting up schools? That's not cool. But it's not the gun's fault. It's not the gun's fault. It's mental health. It's people who think that's okay to do. I have this belief in life really strongly. I believe everyone is always doing their best. they're always doing their best, regardless of whether they think it or not. Because when someone decides to shoot up a school, they think it's the best decision for them to go to that school and kill these kids. They think that it's going to be this their best course of action for some reason. I can't fathom that, obviously, but they're in a position where they thought that was the best decision. They're wrong, okay? And it's up to us to correct that, but you can't say that they aren't doing their best. Even when someone gives really low effort, I see like on college discussion boards, someone gives a really low effort, shitty response. They didn't do their best on that school project, but what they still did was their best because they thought it was best not to give full of their effort there. Maybe they needed to like just get the assignment done real quick. Boom, throw it away, do the next thing. Maybe they're busy, maybe they had somewhere to go. Then their best would be to get that done really quick and do something more important so they can give their best on that, alright? It's different. I don't know. Some days I feel incapable. Some days I feel like my best is only 30% of what my best should be. But if I gave that full 30%, I'm giving 100% of what I have. I'm still giving my best. And even though 30% is not the best, it's not my best, it's the best I can give, and I'm still giving it. I don't know, and I think that helps. I hope to leave people with that idea. Every time you think that someone did something wrong against you, that bitch that called me an ugly bitch with no sense of fashion, alright? She was doing her best. She was just doing her best, as an 8th grader was. And while I do blame her for it, because she should be held accountable for her actions, she should be told that isn't right to do, I'm not going to make her, I don't know, feel excessively bad about it. I'm going to say, like, you did that because you thought it was the right thing to say in front of your friends. Maybe you're just trying to show off. In the end, it wasn't right, and you should consider that you have a different best to give. You should. You do have a different best to give. There's always a different direction you could choose to go, and I don't know. Sometimes your best is only 30% of what is your best, you know, a personal record or something. But if you give it all, that's all you have to give. And 30% is a failing grade. But it's 100% of what you have. Sometimes your best sucks. Sometimes your best isn't enough. And it sucks. But that's when you have to make your best better. That's when you have to make your best better. You have to, instead of calling me an ugly bitch with no sense of fashion, you have to change your best to be, I think I need to get new clothes. To be, I wonder what she would look like with a dress on. She could have said that. She could have said, I bet she will clean up well on the 8th grade dance. Which I did. I wore a really nice dress. And I did my hair. And everything like that. So going from sweats every day and all this to a dress, you know, that was a change. And I don't know, she could have chose to point that out. She could have chose to say that. That would have been better. But all she could do at the time was her best. And I like to acknowledge that in people. Every time someone wrongs me, it was still their best. When my boyfriend cheated on me, it's what he thought was best. He thought it was best to leave me for that other girl in the way he did, by not telling me. And, you know, that was probably the best of his communication skills. I blame him for it. I think his best should have been better. But he still did his best. And I don't know. I gotta have grace, peace of mind. I can't be as mad, I guess. It's more for me, my sake. If I think of everyone doing their best, I can still be hurt. It still hurts when their best sucks. It still hurts when their best is being mean to me. But it hurts less to think that it is their best. That they are just, everyone here is just doing their best. And we all need to better our best. It's up to us. And, you know, you can help someone better their own best by pointing out their flaws. Whenever someone hurts you, just say, hey, you could have gone about that in a different way. that would have been better for me and maybe better for you. Anyway, I think that is the piece I'd like to leave this with. This is a discussion on it's not even a discussion on abortion. It's why we shouldn't discuss abortion. Why there should only be one discussion on it. There only needs to be one, with everyone included. And that's impossible, so we have to have multiple ones with, everyone will get there eventually, but I don't know. It'd be nice. It's like how they broadcast the presidential debates. In the end, someone is supposed to win, whoever wins presidency, but while they're not doing it right. They're not really debating each other. They're just yelling over each other and telling each other to shut up. I mean, I don't know. It's weird that we're seeing grown adults do this and we expect them to run our country. And we're choosing them to. We're still voting for them. It's not voting for the lesser of evils. You could just not vote. No one wins. What if nobody voted, actually? I've never thought about that. What if just nobody voted? If everyone was like, yeah, these presidents suck, I don't want to vote for them. Don't vote for someone because you don't want the other person to win. Because you're still giving power to someone that sucks. Even if the other person sucks more. I don't know. That's why I haven't voted. There hasn't been anyone I want to vote for. I'm not going to vote against someone. It's weird. And, I don't know. There's so many things about politics that are just, they don't make sense in real life. They don't make sense when you take a step back and look at them. And I would encourage everyone to do that, to take a step back, to think about, should this best be better?